Chapter 6 Worksheet and Adjusting Entries for a Service Business. 6-3 Completing the worksheet and finding errors on a worksheet. In this work together question, we need to start with the file from section 6-2. The instructions tell us to extend the up-to-date balance into the balance sheet and income statement columns. Let's start with the income statement column. This column has all of the income for the month. Starting on line 10, we copy everything from the income summary row down from the trial balance columns and the adjustment columns into the income statement columns. Take a moment and copy the values over. Like the previous columns, we need to use the sum command to calculate the subtotals of each column. Now when you do this, you will notice that the totals are not the same. Normally this is a sign of a mistake, but not in this case. We'll get to that in a sec. Let's take care of the formatting. Like before, we put a dark line above the total, but in this case we do not put the double line underneath. Now we need to determine the profit. We had a sales of $2,160 for April, and our total expenses for the month are $1,483. If we subtract the two values, we get $677 of profit. We put that in the credit column and redo the totals with a double underline underneath. On the left side, we put the net income, which is the profit for the month. This finishes the income statement columns. The next part of section 6-3 is to finish the balance statement columns. For the balance columns, copy all of the values from cash row 1 to Connor Whitney drawing on row 8 from the trial balance and adjustment columns to the balance columns. Pause the video and do that now. Now that you have the values copied over, you will notice that only the supplies on row 4 and the prepaid insurance on row 5 have values in the credit and debit columns, so we need to simplify the values. For the supplies, a debit of $238 minus a credit of $153 gives us the amount remaining, which is $75 that was mentioned in section 6-2. So under the debit, we replace everything with $75. For the prepaid insurance, a debit of $375 minus a credit of $125 gives us the amount remaining, which is $250, which was mentioned in section 6-2. So under the debit, fill in $250. The next step is to do the subtotals in row 17 using the sub command and then put in a dark line above. Once again, you will notice that the value of the debit and credit columns are not the same. We calculate the difference and put that down in row 18, and you will notice that this gives us the same $677 that we had for net income, which is what it should be. How much the assets of the company changed by in the month of April. The final part of the worksheet is to calculate the final totals and change the lines for the balance statement. These should be the same total as the debit and credit.